Hey everybody, Ian here. Today I'm going to be making Belgian candy sugar for 2 batches of beer that I plan on making this week. One's a Belgian Pale Ale triple, somewhere in between there, and the other is going to be an Imperial Stout. So I'm going to be making clear Belgian candy sugar and then really dark Belgian candy sugar. Okay, so I've got 5 pounds of sugar. This is just your standard bag of sugar that you get from the grocery store. It's in a pot already. I have a candy thermometer, just a regular metal probe thermometer, citric acid, teaspoon, some measuring cups, water, and then some silicone molds. This is 2 cups of water that I'm adding to the sugar. I'm trying to use as little water as possible. I just want to make kind of like a slush. So this is pretty good right here. The more water you use, the longer this takes, because part of the process is heating this up, and you got to get to 260 degrees Fahrenheit, and with the water in there, that's going to slow it down, and you got to cook all the water off before you can get the temperature up high enough. So the less water you can add at the beginning, the shorter the time is for the whole process. Alright, so I've got a candy thermometer down in here, and our target is, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I'm trying to get to hard ball, which is around 260 Fahrenheit, and that's the temperature we're going to hold this at for the whole process. So I'm going to turn the heat on now, and we'll start cooking this. So you don't want to rush to get this to temperature. Low heat's good, and just let it take its time and do its thing. And you want to stir it fairly often just to make sure that you're not burning the bottom surface. As it warms up, it's going to start getting thinner and thinner and thinner. It'll be easier to stir. What we're doing right now is we're just waiting for the sugar crystals to all completely dissolve into the water, and at that point we'll add in the citric acid. So the water is starting to boil in here now, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is add the citric acid. This is 5 pounds of sugar, and I'm adding in about a teaspoon of citric acid. I'm just going to stir that in. Now it's really starting to boil now. Like I said, our target is 260 degrees. Just let it keep cooking. Most of the bubbling will go down once the water has cooked out a solution. And this is really where you have to start watching what's going on. You don't want it to get much above 260 degrees. So you're just going to keep an eye on the temperature, and you're going to keep water on hand so you can add water to the solution to keep the temperature down. You can also turn the heat down as well. So your goal is to get to 260 and then just sit there. You can see now it's very clear. There's no crystals anymore, and that's where you want it to be. So why are we making Belgian candy sugar? Alright, well, I mean, if you're just doing a regular old beer and you want to add increase the alcohol level, you don't want to use more grain, you can just throw sugar right into the batch, and that'll work just fine. And the problem is sugar, table sugar, cane sugar, beet sugar, it's sucrose, so it's actually two different sugar molecules stuck together. There's a glucose and a fructose molecule stuck together. So when the yeast eat it, what they have to actually do first is make an enzyme called an invertase, and then break the two molecules apart. And then once they have the two molecules apart, the glucose and the fructose are easier to digest. So what we're doing is, by making Belgian candy sugar, we're cutting out that middle process where they have to make the enzyme. So it makes it easier for the yeast to eat the sugar, and it puts less stress on them, and you're less likely to get off flavors during the fermentation process. That's one reason. Another reason is, once you pass the clear stage on the Belgian candy sugar, it starts to caramelize, obviously, and then you're going to get darker and darker sugar, and you can actually use that as a flavor additive to your beer, which is what I'm going to be doing with half of this batch. So 2 pounds of this is just going to stay clear, and I'm going to add that to a Belgian ale, and then the other 3 pounds I'm going to continue to cook until it's really dark, and I'm going to use that in a Russian Imperial Stout. So it's going to have that increase in alcohol content, but it's also going to add a really nice caramel sugar flavor to the beer. So this whole process can be done without acid, but by adding acid to it, we actually increase the reaction rate and the efficiency. So like right now, if I had not added acid to this, the sucrose bonds would be breaking and we would have glucose and fructose in here, but it would still be like a larger, the mixture would have a higher percentage of sucrose. So by adding the acid, we're just making the process more efficient, and so we're going to have higher ratio of glucose fructose versus sucrose. Okay, so we've hit the hardball stage. It's 260 degrees, and so we want to keep it at this temperature. So turn the heat down, and you want to have water on hand so that if it starts to creep up above that 260, you can pour some water in. Understand that this is really hot now, so as soon as the water hits this, it's going to want to turn to steam. So you want to be stirring as you add the water, and just be careful. And we're going to try to hold it at this temperature for about 10 minutes. At which point, most of the conversion should have happened. Or inversion, I guess. Okay, so at this point, if I was done, and I was just going to have this light color, what I would do is let the heat shoot up to close to 300 degrees, which is hard crack, and that way you get that nice like rock candy kind of thing going on. But since I'm going to be continuing to cook this, but I want 2 pounds out of here right now, what I'm going to do is transfer some of this out into molds and then continue to cook it. Okay, so this is insanely hot. You have to be very careful. You don't want to get any of this on your skin. First off, it will almost instantly give you a 3rd degree burn. And the other thing is you're going to instinctively want to smear it away, wipe it off, at which point you will just smear 200+ degree sugar all over your skin. This is like lava. So this is approximately 2 pounds. I know that to fill each of these pockets it's about 1 pound, so this is about 2 pounds of sugar in these molds. Okay, so now with the remaining sugar here, I'm just going to keep cooking it. Keep watching the temperature. And what I'm looking for is a really, really dark color, so we'll just let that keep cooking.